Hi, this is your host, Ryan, and I'm here today with our special guest, Dr. Beverly Yates. Dr. Beverly is an expert on weight loss and women's health, including PCOS weight loss. She has over 2 decades of clinical experience. She's a caring doctor and a lifelong athlete as well. And in her former career as an MIT-educated electrical engineer, Dr. Beverly was a problem solver, and now as a doctor, she continues to use that same problem-solving skill to help other women solve their weight loss problems. And in today's interview, which is part of Dr. Beverly's PCOS Weight Loss Tips series, we're going to be talking about why the time of day that you eat matters when it comes to PCOS weight loss. Dr. Beverly, welcome to the call, and thanks so much for being here.
Hey, always my pleasure. My pleasure. Glad to do it.
Cool. So let's talk in general terms.
Mm-hmm.
Does the time of day that your meals are eaten, if you're a woman who suffers from PCOS, does that affect your ability to lose PCOS-affiliated weight?
You know what? Yes. Yes, it does. It really does matter, too, in a big way. A lot of folks don't know this. In fact, many women who have PCOS and who struggle with weight loss-related concerns don't realize this key factor. It gets overlooked a lot. For a woman with PCOS who wants to lose weight, if she has a hectic day, she's running around, doing lots of things, and winds up missing meals, she's likely to eat most of her calories late in the day. It's kind of like trying to play catch up from having not eaten enough earlier in the day. And this is not good. And what a setup that is for constant failure and continued frustration with losing PCOS pounds.
So if you're a woman who's looking for success with PCOS weight loss, can you eat late in the day, like an hour before bedtime or less, or do you need to eat earlier than that?
Oh, goodness, no. Eating an hour or less before bedtime is a disaster. It's a huge mistake to make. And you know what? It's really a common mistake, too. It's just a no-no. In fact, in an online survey I'm leading at this time, I'm talking to women with PCOS from all over, and I'm surprised at how many women don't know about this. But think about it. If you take in most of your calories late in the day, do you give your body any time, really, to burn those calories before you go to bed? The answer is no, not really. Eating late in the day leads to weight gain, especially gaining fat. Eating late in the day is how you turn on the weight gain switch. If you want to turn the weight gain switch off, then eat most of your calories earlier in the day and not at bedtime. Not at dinner time. So, in other words, there's 2 parts here. Shift the calories to the front end of the day, to breakfast, lunch, midday, that's fine. And don't have most of your calories at dinner time. Then you want dinner time to be away from bedtime.
It seems like I have this visual in my mind, and this may be wrong, so correct me if it is wrong, but it's almost like, a calorie enters your body, and during the day, you give it 2 choices. One is it can be stored as fat, as weight, or it can have the option of being burned.
Mm-hmm.
But if you eat right before bed, there's no option to burn it. So the only option for that calorie is what? To be stored.
Right.
Effectively.
That's accurate.
So what happens if you're not hungry when you wake up in the morning? Because I know a lot of women in my life, my wife and my mother, we talk about this all the time. I'm someone who eats a big breakfast, but they're not hungry in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Is it okay to skip breakfast, or is that bad?
That's bad. That's bad. And for a lot of folks, when they first wake up that, they're not hungry, and they go, that means I don't need to eat. And that's just a big mistake, It's common, but it's a problem. And it's not okay as a result, though, to skip breakfast. The word breakfast is break fast, right? Because when you haven't eaten overnight, that's essentially a fast for the body. So to break your fast, to have breakfast, gets the metabolism going and says, hey, we're in calorie burn mode. We have to fuel our day, And you don't need to feel bad about it, right? It's okay if you're not hungry when you first wake up. If your habit is to eat late in the day, though, shortly before going to bed, then of course you're going to wake up not feeling very hungry. That's much more likely. But once you shift your habits and start eating most of your calories in the earlier part of the day, it's quite likely that you will start to wake up feeling hungry. Your fast will have been extended for a longer period of time. So the bottom line is this. It's not okay to skip breakfast. This is one of the most common mistakes that all people looking to lose weight make, including women with PCOS-related weight issues. Skipping breakfast leaves your body without the fuel it needs for the day's activities, and it puts your metabolism, which is your ability to burn calories for energy, it puts it behind even as your day begins. You've already started out, going backwards, if you will. It's the wrong way to start out your day. So I say to folks, look, eat breakfast. Prepare it the night before if you've got time pressure. Have a clear plan for breakfast, and make sure you eat your breakfast. You don't skip it if you want PCOS weight loss success.
Very interesting. Now, Beverly, I know when you and I have talked in the past, you mentioned to me that you get asked a question a lot by the women who are looking to lose weight, suffering from PCOS. And that's when they eat late in the day, they aren't usually hungry when they wake up.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens if they just ignore all the principles you've been talking about timing the meals? Does it affect their odds of success with PCOS weight loss?
Yes, indeed. It does affect their odds of success. PCOS weight loss is tough enough. Why put yourself at further jeopardy of not being able to be successful, right? So with that, if you ignore those principles, you really risk what you're doing. So if you eat late in the day, you're probably not going to awaken feeling hungry, and that's a typical consequence, right, of eating late in the day. If you ignore these principles entirely about the timing of your meals, you do so at your own peril. You risk continued failure at PCOS weight loss. You may be cheating yourself out of the opportunity to experience success with PCOS weight loss. Such wonderful success. It could be something as straightforward as this simple suggestion that finally makes a difference in losing weight. This is especially true if you're over the age of 38 years old. The thing over the years I've told people, this is the one thing they're like, wow, now I'm finally having some success. It didn't occur to them they couldn't go to bed right after eating a heavy meal and then lose weight, right? What a disaster. It doesn't work.
Right. It's hard, too, if you've been used to operating a certain way for years. It just kind of becomes a habit that's ingrained, and sometimes the key is you have to find a way to break that habit.
Yeah.
What about skipping breakfast? Does skipping breakfast affect your odds of success with PCOS weight loss?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ryan. Thanks for asking it. I'm a big breakfast eater too, and have been for a very long time. And yeah, skipping breakfast definitely affects your odds of success with PCOS weight loss. Again, from the online survey results that I'm having and talking to women from all over and working with PCOS sufferers over the years, I've learned that quite a number of women with PCOS make this mistake of thinking that following basic weight loss rules that work for most folks will, of course, unfortunately, based on their experience, not work for them, since so much of what goes with having PCOS means that the body has an abnormal response to what usually works for most people, right? Their strategies for losing weight. So they think that this piece doesn't apply. And that's a mistake. Skipping breakfast, even if you have PCOS weight problems, really is a problem. It's important to start your day with energy, and eating your breakfast engages your metabolism when it's ready to burn the food you eat as fuel. Eating breakfast makes it more likely that your metabolism is not, I repeat, not, as likely to be in fat storage mode early in the day. Similarly, eating late in the day is when your metabolism is likely to be in fat storage mode. That's why you don't want to eat most of your calories late in the day. Doing that is part of the recipe for gaining weight and increasing body fat. Specific herbs and supplements, along with some certain nutrition and diet choices, good sleep habits, like we've talked about and will continue to talk about in this podcast series, and other lifestyle elements can help make a PCOS sufferer to really take charge of the weight loss results and make it much more likely she's going to experience success. Well-deserved success, I might add. PCOS weight loss folks work so hard. It's good to be able to get what you're coming for when you want results, So I put together a helpful guide called the Ultimate PCOS Weight Loss Herbs and Supplement Guide, which covers some of these issues in depth. To sign up for the email list or to buy this guide, you can go to www.pcosweightlosstips.com for more information.
And anyone listening to this, I definitely highly recommend checking that out because, we only have a little bit of time today to cover as much as possible. And Beverly goes into so much more depth and detail, with some step-by-step instructions and exactly what to do in detail in that guide. So I can't recommend it highly enough. So, Beverly, are there any other risks that you need to be worried about when it comes to eating lots of food late in the day, like just before bedtime?
Yes, yes. And it's an interesting question, too. And it's got a surprising answer. So let's check this out. If you eat late in the day, you increase the risk of having the following illnesses and diseases. Heartburn absolutely is related to this phenomenon. What's called GERD, G-E-R-D, stands for gastroesophageal reflux disease. Certainly, it follows that. Type 2 diabetes, for some people, eating food late in the day, particularly if it's carbohydrate rich, is more likely to make that a risk factor for a number of reasons. We won't cover that in this podcast. We'll get into the crossover between PCOS and type 2 diabetes in a different podcast because that absolutely deserves its own moment. That's for sure. Heart attacks, certainly an increased incidence in that case. And of course, like we've been discussing here, weight gain, relentless kinds of weight gain too, and can lead therefore to obesity, which can become severe, leading to morbid obesity. I've been surprised how many of the women, although maybe I shouldn't be, But of the women who've been responding to online survey, a significant number have been saying that they are 100 or more pounds overweight. So they're morbidly obese. And it just tells me that, these lifestyle elements are every bit as important as the kind of food and the quality of food. All these pieces have to come together so they really can heal. Otherwise, this goes on, so that's the risk. And there's other health problems, but those are the most common ones for eating late in the day. And, it's not worth it. Eat your final meal of the day well before your bedtime. Ideally, it's at least 3 hours before bedtime. It's best to eat your final food for the day, even at 4 to 5 hours before you go to bed. If you really want to supercharge your weight loss results and have success, don't even make it 3 hours before bedtime. Eat your dinner 4 to 5 hours before you go to bed. This simple habit hugely helps with losing weight. And this simple habit of eating your final meal of the day well before bedtime is part of what is critical to the success in maintaining weight loss once you've had some success. This is how you take it off. This is how you keep it off.
What advice do you have for someone who they're listening to this and they say, that makes perfect sense, totally understand it, I'm on board. Eat 4 hours before going to bed. So if you go to bed at, call it 11 o'clock at night, you eat at 7, don't eat anything else. But what happens when you have a, kind of like hunger strikes where you've got, it's maybe 8, 8:30, maybe 9 o'clock at night, and you have that urge to have something as a snack. Mm-hmm. What advice would you have for someone who maybe struggles with that kind of issue?
Yeah, I'd say two things. One is to make sure that their dinner is rich in fiber because fiber is so filling and satisfying. And so I would absolutely emphasize the vegetables at dinner. Like have a salad, have steamed or cooked, gently cooked vegetables along with a hearty protein, and call it good. If they're having hunger pangs and that kind of strategy doesn't work, maybe they could have some hot tea or iced tea, depending on your time of year and where you live, either one. But something that's fun, that's festive, but isn't packed with calories, would be usually a way to work with feeling satisfied. Green tea is great for appetite control. The only problem with green tea, and really it's a minor one, but if you're sensitive, here's the deal. If you have a problem with caffeine, you just need to know that green tea does contain some caffeine. So use a decaffeinated green tea. In other words, if the caffeine is going to keep you up and then the sleep loss is going to affect your weight loss, right? You go from one problem to the other. So get a decaf green tea or the herbal green teas. But otherwise, I think that can really be helpful if you're having those hunger pangs. Don't, whatever you do, give in to the urge to have chips. There's a whole other phenomenon, which we've covered a little bit in some other podcasts, that if you stay up late, like our sleep-related podcasts, and then that mini course in the email series, I talk about what happens if you don't go to bed on time and you stay up later and your body wants you to eat more and it wants you to eat specifically carbohydrates because now one of your hormones, cortisol, is screaming at you and it wants to be fed. So if you are listening to the series or if you are thinking about signing up for the series, please do. You're going to learn a lot because I really try to explain to people why the carbo chips, sweets monkey gets on people's back. It's not bad. It's not like you're a bad person. It's not like you have, no willpower. This is actual physiology and biochemistry that is now shifting, and you can shift it back, but you need to know what's happening. That's part of what I go into in the Herbs and Supplements Guide and why I packaged it up and made it available as a product so people could actually access it from wherever they're at. Because once you understand what's going on, you can take charge of it. It's hard to take charge of something you don't understand.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I'll leave one last little tidbit to mention before we sort of move on here. When you're talking about different teas to try, it's funny. I myself am one of these people that struggle with the urge to, snack if I'm working late at night or something like that. And I'll tell you what did it for me.
What?
So anyone listening to this might want to give this a shot. Peppermint tea. Peppermint tea and spearmint tea.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because there's enough flavor in it that it almost sort of fools you that you're having something to eat. It kind of is reminiscent of having, like either a piece of gum or, a mint dessert of some sort. So there's a little bit of flavor to it. And for whatever reason, that was enough for me to kind of, quench that appetite at night and be able to follow Beverly's rules. So, it's available usually at the grocery store in the tea section. And there's a company out there that sells, they call it, I forget the technical term. You're going to know this better than me, Beverly. It's called like not pharmacological tea, but it's pharmacopal quality. There's a certain grade that they describe it.
Pharmacopoeia, yeah.
Yeah, pharmacopoeia.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, anyone listening, that might be worth a shot.
That's a great idea. It's a great idea.
So, we're talking about ideal meal times. What's an ideal meal time for eating meals if you want to lose PCOS weight?
Yeah. Let's talk about timing because, if you have an idea of what the timing is for eating meals, this is another piece of just knowledge that you can then incorporate. Because it's one thing to know stuff, it's another thing to do stuff. So I want people to know stuff and hopefully motivate them so then they can go do it. So ideally, right, you're going to get up, you're going to eat your breakfast within about 1 hour of getting up for the day. Now, it's okay if you don't eat within 10 minutes of getting up. I don't think that's practical for most people. Some of us are kind of groggy when we first awaken. But within 1 hour of getting up is fine. Fuel the day. Want to have a good day? Fuel it. Give yourself some energy. So unless you're on a specific exercise plan that requires you to work out just after you wake up and before you eat, then the best timing is to have that breakfast within that first hour of getting up, okay? Mm-hmm. For lunch, you want to eat that about midday, roughly 4 to 5 hours after you've eaten your breakfast. And by then you should be feeling hungry. That would be normal. And make it the most calorie-dense meal of the day. It's great for lunch to have the most calories. If you prefer it's breakfast, that's fine. It doesn't have to be lunch. But if your lunch tends to be lightweight, and a lot of people if your breakfast tends to be lightweight, and a lot of people don't eat that much at breakfast time, make sure you are packing your food calories density into your lunchtime. Get it in you then. And if you find that eating lunch 4 to 5 hours after eating your breakfast is too long of a stretch for you without eating something, and it's going to, wreck your plans, and now you're going to go and eat ridiculous stuff, it's okay to have a small mid-morning snack. That's fine. And then, of course, be sure to eat your lunch. Don't skip it. Have a plan for lunch. Then eat your dinner, of course, like we said before, at least 3 hours before bedtime, but ideally eat dinner 4 to 5 hours before bedtime. And this gives your digestive system plenty of time to process your meal before you go to sleep. Helps to restore a more normal metabolism that burns your food for energy rather than just stores it as fat. And women with PCOS weight loss know how efficient their body is at turning everything they take in into fat.
So if we talk for a moment specifically for women and girls that are dealing with PCOS weight issues, what's the number one thing that they need to know when it comes to the timing of their meals?
Sure. Let's join the real world here with this. I'm well aware as a naturopathic doctor that lifestyle elements are huge and that changing habits takes time. It's really true. Changing habits takes time. If you know you struggle with eating dinner earlier in your day, you're going to need to make some changes in order to set yourself up for success. So you're going to consciously have to set yourself up for success rather than accepting failure with this. So if you have a really full, crazy day ahead of you, bring your dinner with you when you leave your home. That way, if work or school or other obligations take longer than you expect, you can still eat your dinner 3 to 5 hours before bedtime. There's a traffic jam, whatever's going on, even if you're not at home at that time. It also helps you to avoid grabbing whatever food is available, which typically is going to be fast, easy food late in the day. And it's likely to be quote-unquote fast food or junk food, which will definitely interfere with and probably sabotage your hard-won PCOS weight loss goals. So sit down and you write out a week's worth of dinner meal plans for yourself. Do any prep work for your dinner meal the night before, so all you have to do is put it together in order to make dinner the next day. And just like we've discussed, be sure to finish eating all of your food for the day by 3 to 5 hours before your bedtime. On the front end of your day, if you know you struggle with eating breakfast, same idea. You want to set yourself up for success. Start by eating 3 to 5 hours before bedtime the night before, so you're more likely to awaken ready to eat. So as I'm saying, you're preparing for breakfast by making sure you got your dinner in you early enough so that you're hungry for the breakfast, Then you sit down, you write out a week's worth of breakfast meal plans for yourself. You do any prep work for breakfast meal the night before, so all you have to do is put it together the next day, that morning, in order to make your breakfast happen. And if this is making sense to you, to cook or otherwise prepare your food the night before, so all you have to do is eat it when you wake up, great. Now you see the connection between setting in motion the good habits that'll make the difference for success, Some breakfasts are pretty simple. You probably don't need to prep them in advance. Others, you might need to do that. So like making sure if you're going to have eggs as part of your breakfast that you have enough eggs. You're not scrambling around trying to find the eggs. If you want to have chopped onions and parsley and scallions and chives and fennel and other things in your omelet, great. But do all that chopping and prep work the night before, so all you have to do is assemble it, and put it in your pan and you're good to go.
It's so true. And then the one other thing that you made me think of, it's sort of like the advice that you get when it comes to shopping for groceries. You never want to shop for groceries on an empty stomach because you'll buy a whole bunch of junk food. But if you shop on a full stomach, you'll tend to make healthier choices. For me personally, I found the same thing to be true with meal preparation. That if you prepare tomorrow's meals on a full stomach after dinner or whatever, then you're not compelled to go for the, quick fix type, chips in a bag type thing because your brain isn't thinking like that. So I think the advice that you're giving here is really fantastic.
Yeah, it's calming. And if the person listening to this, if you are a woman who suffers with anxiety, I'm telling you, this simple set of maneuvers, it's powerful. Because now your body, your mind, your spirit knows you've got a plan. There's a part of you that relaxes. When you're relaxed, you're going to make better food choices than when you're freaked out not knowing what you're doing. Really, it makes a difference. You'd be surprised.
So what happens when you make some changes in your life, you're on the straight and narrow, and then you slip up.
Yep.
And you fall back into those old unhelpful habits like, whatever it is, skipping breakfast or eating dinner late. What advice do you have?
Well, number one, right? First here, forgive yourself. Really, it's all right. Everyone makes mistakes, and we all have different kinds of mistakes we make, but all of us make them. That's just that's a given. That's part of, the reality of being a human. Now that you know better, though, you have to choose to do better. So you get right back into the helpful habits of eating this way so that you can get the results you so richly deserve. Of course, you want to lose excess PCOS-related weight, and this can really help you if you do it day after day. It's your daily habits that, in part, help determine your health results. So you take charge of this aspect of PCOS weight loss and make sure you're eating in a way that honors and respects your health needs. You are absolutely worth it.
So true. So true. Beverly, this was, as always, fantastic, jam-packed with so many useful tips and information. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
To learn more about Dr. Beverly Yates and her programs and to get a complimentary free report containing free weight loss tips and secrets, all specifically geared for women with PCOS, visit PCOSweightlosstips.com. Once again, that's PCOSweightlosstips.com. Thanks so much for being with us here today. Take care.